Good evening and welcome to Plain Talk. My name is Christopher Ram. Thank you for joining us. As we continue our series on local government elections, you will recall last week we had on this program a contingent from the PPP Civic, 2 national and 2 regional representatives of that party. This evening it is my distinct pleasure to have 3 representatives from the Alliance for Change, the AFC. Sitting immediately to my left is Mr. Dominic Gaskin. He's a Minister of the Government, Minister of Business. Of course, he's on the Central Executive. Next to him is Mr. Michael Leonard, Region 4 Chairman of the Alliance for Change, and Mr. Martin Gaul, on my extreme right, candidate for Constituency 9. Gentlemen, welcome to Plain Talk.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, Chris. Good night to your viewers.
I'm sure they're looking forward to this program. How now, there's a view, and I said this last week, that there is some apathy or lack of interest in local government elections. Is that how you're seeing it from the work you do in your various constituencies and meeting with persons?
I let the candidates answer that. I
Okay.
have my own views, but I prefer
In
the
our
candidates.
in our walkabouts, what we are finding, yes, there is apathy, but there's also some amount of ignorance. Persons are not familiar with local government elections because this is, for many of them, only the second local government elections they've ever experienced.
Yes.
So you would meet candidates and they would ask you questions. You'd meet citizens and they'd ask you questions like, so who's going to be next president? So who is the president that we're voting for? And you have to go through a long process of explaining to them that this is not about the president and the prime minister. This is for the community and the council and so on. And it's a little bit of a challenge because you have to explain now proportional representation and all of that and why you're voting for the party. The challenge that we have is that most persons are unfamiliar with local government elections.
In fact, Michael, isn't this less about proportional representation and rather first past the post? Because you're a single constituency, so it's more or less how well your respective candidates do in that particular constituency, isn't it?
Yes, but you have to, as you try to explain it to them that you have a constituency candidate and you have a PR candidate and all of that, the terms sometimes gets them a little confused. But people are excited once you explain it to them. They understand and they're interested. They want a chance to register complaints and so on.
Mr. Gaul, is that your experience?
What I found from the walkabouts and chatting with the residents, okay, the
This is in which area?
constituency 9, Lodge, Meadowbrook, Durban, Backland.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes, there is some amount of lack of knowledge about what the local government election is all about. But what I do, I make it very simple. I let them know there's a difference between the national elections where you vote for president and prime minister and local government election. The local government elections where the powers being decentralized. Okay, I try to explain them like in the form of the police force, where you have the commissioner. He looks over the entire Guyana, police.
Sure.
And then you break down into the commanders and
The
so
divisional
on.
commanders.
Right. So I try to explain. So now this is about you in the community now. Okay. So you can make decisions. Is a closer collaboration between the person. Well, I offer myself as a servant. I don't always say that I'm the leader for the community. I offer myself as a servant to serve you, so they get a better understanding. Okay. Whatever issues we're having, be it the mosquitoes that are affecting us right now, the drainage, we're having bad drainage. The roads need proper maintenance. We're having social issues, domestic violence, suicide, all these things. We can deal with it at the community level. I said this is where we bring out the elders from the community, where the elders will teach the younger ones and we bridge that gap. Okay? We right now have a committee where we're trying to do some restoration of the ground next to Hampton Green building, the Ashton ground there. Mm-hmm. And we want to put on a community center where we can bring out those who may not have been academically qualified, but they can come to the center They can learn a skill. The women can learn to do, knitting and flower making, cake making, and stuff like that, and bring that kind of
Careful, that sounds
cohesion.
a little sexist.
Yes, and the men as well too.
Yes. Okay, good,
We'll have
good.
programs there for the men and the youths as well too. All right. And the funny thing about my constituency, Lodge Meadowbrook, Durham Backland, we have some very talented people in our community there. Okay, we had Mr. Bess, who was a senior scouts. He's prepared to work with me in training these youths and bring them back. Once we had a young brigade. I don't know if you remember that. All right, but he wants to get these little youths and start bringing them back. We want to work with the parents them to bring out the children, then so we can groom them. We had the little brownies and girl guides. Okay, with the little girls them, you're being trained in basic
Yes,
morals and ethics and all these things. So we want to bring back that kind of stuff. So it's not all about just the drainage and stuff, but social development for the members of the community.
Mr. Gaskin, do you find either apathy or ignorance?
Yeah. Both. And it would be remiss of me if I did not emphasize the damage that has been done by not having held regular local government elections for
Yes.
such a long
Yeah.
period of time.
That's true.
And it's not a situation where you can just say, okay, we haven't had it for 23 years, but we'll have it now, and therefore we have caught up and we've remedied the situation. You know, local democracy or local government elections and that whole local government system is a pivotal part of our local democracy. It's a cradle
Pivotal
of
part
democracy.
of
That's
democracy.
where it starts.
That's correct, yes.
And that's where people learn politics, learn to represent their communities. That is really the stepping stone to offices that I now hold, and I have never been part of a local government system.
Yes, yeah.
I'm not happy about that. So I think a lot of damage has been done, and people have not gotten accustomed to this process of selecting representatives who are directly accountable to them in their
Yes.
communities, and that is so important. So we keep hearing it is glossed over as if it was some minor glitch. We haven't had local government elections, and now that we have it, everything is alright. It's not alright because the system does not work. It has become dysfunctional. People are unaware of their responsibilities. People are unaware of, how the system works, and it's unfair on the candidates too.
Yes.
Because it's not making it easy to get young people involved in politics, because they're going out there in the constituencies and they, instead of having to explain what they're going to do for their communities, they have to explain to people what the system is all about. And it shouldn't be their job to explain what the system is about.
As I pose my next question, can I ask, so that we can get as many questions in as possible, if you choose, whichever, of course, it's entirely your decision, whether you would choose one person to answer a particular question that you're more comfortable with.
It sounds
So
like
we
you
can
have a
get
lot of questions. So we
Not
work
really.
with you. We'll
No,
work with you.
because I want you to be able to sell your program. Now, given what you've said, which is unquestionably true, would you have expected GCOM, our National Elections Commission, to do some more work that there was catching up to do? Did they themselves recognize, look, there's a deficit, we need to catch up, we need to do more work?
I don't know if I want to say that GCOM should have done more work. Local government elections is not a part of our culture. So yes,
That's not true. That's only because you're very young.
well,
Local government was very, very much part of
in
of
our
that.
entire history, this is what, our fourth local government elections.
I don't think so. No.
the
Anyway, don't let's get at that.
But he's given a young person's perspective.
Yes, that's
and
what I'm
so
saying.
it's
yes,
certainly
yes.
not part of
No,
young
but
youth
culture is not only about youth.
Well, for the time that I've been alive, for the time that I've been voting, there's been no discussion of local government elections. So I don't know if it's necessarily that GCOM needed to do more.
Bonham himself was a product of local government too, yeah?
But this is our fourth local government elections in 50 years.
Yeah. All right, good.
But the point is, we need to hold it regularly so that it becomes a part.
My question was, given the absence of that culture, as you call it, should we have expected them to be doing a nightly program, a weekly program, promoting local government, encouraging people to go out and vote, and explaining why they should? That's the question I put it to you.
My thing about GCOM, and edifying the people. I think some more patience should have been exercised. The programs them should have run long, because we can't blame them entirely. Okay, because at the first call of this new government, when we called the local government election in 2016, there were a lot of programs, and I can remember going out, the pass through the streets for us with a loudspeaker, calling people out to come out to the sports hall and so on, so they can be edified about local government, local democracy, local authority. And when you turn up there was just a handful of people, and
because we haven't had many of them. It's
that's right.
You've got to work on it. You can't.
That's right.
You can't reduce the work.
And that's why I said they should have probably extended a little more
we need
patience and constantly keep calling on them.
We
Sure.
need to have regular local government elections. That is what
Yeah.
will increase voter turnout.
Yeah. All right. Now, having said that, does the AFC have a built-in advantage in local government elections? You've got the Minister of Security. You've got a close affinity to the farming community. You've got public infrastructure. Up to recently, you had access with water. Because local government is a lot about local issues. Road, water, who gets which contract, and so on. Do you have a built-in advantage?
I'll take that. At least I'll start with that. Not for the reasons that you were citing.
Right.
I think our built-in advantage stems from the fact that we have almost a clean slate. Because we have never contested local government elections before. We have no AFC, or very, very few AFC councillors on most of the NDCs and municipalities in Guyana. So it is difficult for anyone to say to the AFC that we hold you responsible for the dysfunctional local government system or for all the problems in our community. And we found that that is an advantage that we have, because what we are promoting is better governance at the local government election, and our party and our ministers are supporting that. So it's not about what positions we hold and how we can use those positions to gain some advantage. I think we are at an advantage because of our newness and our freshness and our candidates, to be quite frank with you.
But Minister, is that an implicit, implied criticism of the PPP and the PNCR? Because they're the other ones.
You don't expect me to look you in the eye and to look at all your viewers out there and say to the public that I believe that the way in which our local government organs have been managed for all these years is okay. It's not. Most of the municipalities and most of the NDCs are not properly run. It's a fact. There are many reasons for it, but the bottom line is that that's a fact.
What would you say perhaps two, three more prominent reasons? And by the way, I noticed this guy is wearing a shirt not fit and proper. I think, is he talking about me?
We'll get you on before the night is out.
Yes.
Sorry, your question was.
Well, all right. Let's go back to this issue. We were talking about whether it was a criticism
Of the other two parties.
but if you're not comfortable with that, I can move on.
I could say it.
Yeah, go on.
In our press conference that we had today at the Alliance to Change our headquarters, I've been asking and we've been calling constantly for public debates, because as we've said before, the persons that were elected to serve must come forward and answer questions on their accomplishments or their failures. And we have not held the leadership at the local government level for any period so that we could be responsible for failures. We have our councillors who operate at the city council, and these are the councillors that, and at least in our opinion, shun. These are the councillors that fought against the parking meters. These are the councillors that fought against the town clerk and all of the things that were happening there. Our councillor went to give evidence at the ongoing COI. So yes, I will say that the PPP, in the time that they were there, they became known as the king of IMCs. Everywhere had an IMC. Mm-hmm. Everywhere had an interim management committee. It was a purposeful act, I believe, on the part of the PPP to deny the people local government elections. And then there was the issue of the last 3 years at City Hall, which we all have seen how that played out.
Incidentally, just for the record, and I think Dominic will know this, there was this ongoing discussion, particularly between Messrs. Jagdeo and Corbyn, about getting the stage ready, so delaying local government elections because we hadn't got everything in place. I just wanted to correct that.
12 years, wow.
No. I'm just putting that on the table.
And that's a good enough reason to
12
deny
years?
people their rights to
Well, we should
choose
ask.
to select their own representatives.
That's why I said we can ask both Mr. Corbyn and Mr. Jagdeo.
Well, you can have them on your
Yeah.
program maybe next week.
I think the evidence
No,
speaks for
next
itself.
next week I'm hoping to have the APNU, which incidentally has become critical, impliedly critical, again implied, of the City Council. Mr. Joseph Harman, Minister Harman said, well, you know, we're getting worried about what we hear coming out at the Commission of Inquiry. Well, this has been in the newspapers almost every day for the past several years. That's a little bit strange. I want to ask you this question as well. The decision by the AFC, and this comes back to whether the party has been able to get all its ducks in a row, etc. The decision to contest the local government elections, the form, in other words, to go alone, that was taken fairly late in the process. Did that affect your preparation?
We started our discussions on local government elections about 3 national executive meetings ago, which is earlier this year or very late last year, I believe. So we began the process of identifying candidates because we believed in being prepared. So while the conversations with the APNU was ongoing and we were hoping for a resolution, we still had to prepare for in the event that we had to go alone, which we started doing. So we had started identifying candidates, getting up resources for volunteers and things like that.
So what you're saying, Michael, the final late decision to go as AFC, as opposed to APNU plus AFC, did not affect the party.
No, it didn't affect the preparations. What it affected was the candidates being able to identify themselves as AFC candidates
Because of lack
in
of
the community.
lack of certainty.
So
Yes.
we lost some time in the communications aspect of it. But certainly we were prepared. We had all the discussions, and we did enter into negotiations, as you know, with the APNU.
How has that affected your preparation in your constituency 9?
Well, actually, as my colleague said, we were already being prepared, and it's about communicating with the residents. Okay, I think our decision too had a lot to do with response to the people, because our party is a people's party, and the whole call for transparency within the municipalities and the NDCs and so on, it motivated the decision makers in our party. We will have to go alone because the people, we'll be going with the people, not necessarily alone, but we will have to separate just for local government election from the APNU, and we go alone as in response to a call from the people.
Can I ask you and either of you, what have been some of the major challenges? Well, we've certainly identified one issue, whether that's a challenge, this question of the apathy or ignorance. What are some of the major challenges at the national level and at the local government level, which the AFC and its candidates have faced?
You're talking about during this campaign
Yes,
period?
going into local government elections.
I would say from my point of view, the major challenge is the confusion within the electorate or within the communities as to who is responsible for certain aspects of work that needs to be done in those communities. In other words, the delineation between the responsibilities of the NDC and the municipality and national government.
Central government,
Because that can be very frustrating. You go to a community and you get complaints about issues that really have nothing to do with central government, that should have been addressed by the local government body. And that to me, and from my position where I sit, that is a major challenge, because you cannot, it makes it difficult to have a discussion in a community because you're bombarded with complaints about
local government
matters that should have been addressed by the very local government body that we are trying now to promote. So, and that's part of the dysfunctional system.
Let me ask you a quick follow-up. I'm not taking away. Do you think the government of which you're a part has done enough in providing financial resources to these local government bodies to meet the demands and expectations of their local electorate?
Well, I would answer that question a different way. You're familiar with our budget. You know that we've run a budget deficit, so you know that there's not much more that could have been spent. How those resources are allocated, I don't think there was any lack of fairness in how they were allocated. I believe that there's never enough money for countries like Guyana to really do all the things that need to be done. And especially when there was neglect for such a long period of time to fix all the roads, the bridges, the drainage, the other little problems that need to be fixed. Also, I have to say that there is a capacity issue at the level of our local government authorities in terms of their ability to spend and procure and all those things, which may not necessarily be so that just providing more funding may not necessarily have been the solution to getting a lot of things done. So that is how I'll answer that.
So, which one do you want to take the question from the local government perspective? The
Well,
challenges that you face.
In terms of the challenges between the local government and
But
the
the
national...
the challenges that you face, whatever kind of challenges.
Okay, but I wanted to talk about, because by moving around, some people, you have to explain the difference between the local government and the central government. We would find that, for example, Ministry of Public Infrastructure have been assisting the municipality within Georgetown here quite a lot, because you have the public road, which by law and as gazetted, that the ministry is responsible for, and the roads within the community, the secondary roads, that's what the local government, the municipality is responsible for. Okay, so by the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Mr. Pals, we must commend him. He has great love for people.
Particularly since he's an AFC
and
minister as well.
No,
Go
I
on.
mean that same side politics. He naturally have a love for people.
I'm sure about it.
And you
don't
go into
worry.
you go into some areas, and when you look at the drainage in the streets, you have to call on his ministry to assist. Okay, so but some people think now is that it is a ministry responsibility. All right, but the whole idea that you have local democracy is for the local government, and according to our laws, the local government is supposed to generate fund on revenues. All right, so we're not supposed to be solely dependent upon central government. Central government is there to support.
Except you're very limited on the kind of the funds you can raise under the laws. You can't just go and impose taxes, for example.
No.
You have serious limitations.
Very well,
You do.
not to
You
increase taxes as such.
Well,
all right?
that's
But-
how you raise money.
Well, I mean, they do
Raise the
get
taxes, yeah.
that, but they expected that, okay, we have constituencies. That every constituencies, okay, will hold and be accountable, all right, and pull their weight in terms of raising revenue. And a collection of revenues being coming, for example, Georgetown, 15 constituencies, and being pooled to the municipality, okay, because they may have different areas may have different issues and different ways in which they can raise funds. And you pooling that together will help a great deal. So we cannot just only depend on the rates and tax, even though we may have to be realistic where that is
You
concerned.
tried parking meter and your own people fought against it.
Well,
Just bear that in mind.
but we are not against regulated parking. We are against the parking meter contract as it exists,
Okay.
because it's a
Carry on, finish it.
no, because it's a contract that did not go through the correct process of transparency and to be open bidding and all of that.
Very well.
Now, we know, apart from the adversarial nature of our politics, we also believe in the street corner. Our people love to go and hear a good speaker at a street corner meeting. You often find at 2 blocks away, there's a meeting going on here, APN UAFC, and 3 blocks away, you hear the sound of the microphone coming from the PPC, for example. Is that happening at local government? Do you have that kind of competitive edge to your politics at this stage for local government?
I am not seeing it, though I know in some areas it's happening more than in others. But certainly around Georgetown, I haven't seen it. East Bank, East Coast, I haven't seen any signs of it. But I believe in some of the smaller municipalities, there seems to be more at stake, and it's more competitive.
But I don't believe that it will work in local government elections. Persons want an opportunity to shake the hand and meet the person that is asking for their vote to represent them at the community level. If it's a general elections, we all know and we vote for the president and the prime minister, that kind of thing. That's the image that we have. But at the local government level, at a street corner meeting doesn't give you an opportunity to meet and shake the hand of the candidate. People like that you come to their gate and so on. So that one-on-one meeting has been working very well for us.
People want that in the general elections as well. But the street corner is that you get an opportunity to speak to many people at one time. But so your strategy, essentially, is that what you're saying, Michael? The strategy at the local government election level for the AFC is not meetings as such, but the personal hugging and handshaking.
Yeah, we believe that the persons that are attracted to the AFC are attracted to us because they are interested in the issues and not rhetoric. They're not interested in the old-fashioned political speak. They're not coming to us because they believe that we're going to beat a race drum that is going to get everyone excited. They want to tell you that this drain has been bothering me for 5 years and I would like for something to be done about it. Or they'd like to say, well, my son or my daughter has to come down this street at night from school and there are no street lights, and for me that would mean the world to me to get a street light. That's what local government is, touching people at that very, very basic and level.
One of the questions I put to the PPPC, and I did say to the minister in our telephone conversation, I was going to stick as much to the similar kinds of questions, is that do you believe that national parties should be engaging in local government elections, or rather that it should be left to the people and the communities to do it?
I could take a stab at that. I think there should be less emphasis on national parties at the local government elections. I think the fact that in our local government elections this time around, most of the candidates actually belong to one of the national parties is just another symptom of the dysfunctional local government system that we have as a result of not having had regular elections for such a long time. So that all people know and identify with are the national parties. And that needs to change, because I think we can all agree that at the local government level, especially at the constituency level, really you ideally want people in the community who are independent of any national party and who can just go out there, have the respect of their community, and win an election without being supported or controlled by a national party. So I won't say that national parties have no place in local government elections. I think I personally would prefer to see a lot more independent candidates contesting these elections.
But if I could say, I don't know if you remember, but I ran with Team Legacy the last local government elections, even though I was a member of the Alliance for Change. But what we have done, what I realized is, again, as Dominic said, the interest in local government elections is not there. And people don't connect with anything other than what they already know, the major parties. So what we have done is we have on our slate, more than 75% of the persons running on our slate across the country are not members of our party. There are persons who ran as independents the last time. There are persons who are not members but are community leaders or community activists or just decided that they want to do something for their community. And those are the persons that we have running on our slate. We actually asked some of our members, and some of our members volunteered to step back in their constituencies and allow other persons to run, because we believe that you should have widespread involvement.
And our party have a clear understanding. Comes back again to education and edifying the people. Because what we should not do with the national party is use the local government as a pole for national politics, because that damages the local democracy. And it is one of the reasons why that the AFC has come on board with the local government, not as a party to enforce, but as a means, a tool that, okay, look, we can get some support here from the AFC, but the AFC is not dictating how you should run or how a candidate should run their community, because each community or constituency would be unique in its own way. So it's not a party dictatorship and we're deciding, okay, you do this or you do that, we're going to run this community that way. Each respective leader or candidate or whoever will be the councillor, okay, they will have to run their constituency. But they can always have the leaders of the AFC will be advising them wherever they need advice from our leaders, the seniors in the national party. But the AFC will not be dictated whereby the people are dependent upon the party. The people will be dependent upon the municipality and the NDCs. And the way it is structured, the local government is structured with proportional representation. All right? If it was just for sparse the post and not proportional representation, okay, then you may not have seen the AFC. But the whole idea is you have proportional representation. Okay, that calls for a group or a national party, and our laws provide for that. So we cannot, if the laws provide for that, that's what it is.
Laws are made by people, laws are advanced by cabinet, so the law is not immutable, it's not cast in stone.
I'm not saying
No,
that, but it's
I'm
there.
just pointing out that you say, well, it's there, but you've got, you're in power.
Very well.
Now, and in that same vein, how challenging or difficult it is where you have at the national level, as personified on this program, Minister Gaskin, working as a single unit with one of the political groupings, the APNU, and then that's at the national level, and at the local level, you're going out there and say, look, I am competing against that person. I am better than that, but I think you should cast your vote for me instead of that person. Implicitly, again, you're saying that I'm better than that person. What challenge does that pose for the AFC at the national level, and what challenge does it pose for the candidates at the local government level? Who's going to go first?
It poses no challenge at all for me at the national level.
No, for the party.
Because, or for the party, we don't see it as a challenge. We see local government elections as community-based elections. This is where people are going to select someone, hopefully who is fit and proper, to represent their
Come with this
communities
thing again.
on the governing body, whether it's an NDC or municipality.
But Dominic,
Communities must have the best possible person
But
representing
Dominic,
them. I have
that's
no
fair.
problem, and I have no problem reconciling that with the cooperation that we have at the national level.
I know
and
you.
also, at the national level, we are a coalition government. And we are a coalition government because circumstances brought us together. I've said it before, it is not a love affair. It is a purposeful decision that was taken by both parties for very good reason. And we are in government now for 3.5 years, and it has been working quite well at the national level. So at the local level, things are different. The
Let him answer.
rationale,
Yeah,
the rationale for
let him answer for the local
national-
level. Let him answer for the local
But the
level.
rationale
Let him
does
answer for
not
the local.
exist at the local level that exists at the national level. So we have no problem with it. It doesn't affect us in any way. It is not affecting our relationship in any way. Of course, sometimes feathers could get ruffled, and I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but it hasn't affected our working relationship at all.
At the local level.
At the local level and in our camp.
Here it is. You have maybe an independent candidate. We have so few independent candidates now. You wonder if this is not just the three parties really fighting these elections, and that's a real tragedy. That's a setback for our democracy. But forget that. So you have three parties essentially, and you want to come out on top. What do you say about the other two?
Our approach to the local government elections and local democracy is not about competition.
Isn't it?
No, we're not about competition. We're offering. Okay? We're
Yes.
putting out our
You're
plans.
offering, saying that I'm better than the other one.
No, I'm not saying that I'm better than the other one.
Okay.
The people will decide that. That's not for me to decide whether I'm better than the other one. This is my plan. This is how I want to
No,
serve.
but-
This is how I want to serve my constituency.
Michael was saying that you want to go and meet people. That's what's
Yes.
happening.
Very well.
So hold on, let me finish the question. And therefore, persons will say, "Well, tell me what you bring
Very well.
to the table that's better than those other two." That's competition, partner.
Well, this is AFC's first local government election. We were in no position to say, well, okay, we were in, AFC was before.
No, we talk about the current one, not
Very
past.
well, very well. Now, it's not a case whereby I'm having a discussion with you. If we have a debate, and we on the debate, and we're presenting our cases, I hear what you're saying, what you're presenting, and what I'm presenting, and the questions are being posed, then I can answer in response to what you're presenting, to what I'm doing. But we're having no debates. So
Michael was calling for debate.
We're calling for debate. I would love to have a debate.
You love this
I would-
adversarial thing then?
I know,
You
I
can't
would-
get it both ways.
I would love to have a debate.
I have,
But we're not
I have
having
a
any
slightly
debate.
different opinion.
Okay, good.
We're not having any debates.
I have a
Let's have a
slightly,
debate with Michael.
I have a slightly different
Sure, go
opinion,
on.
which is why our party is wonderful, a liberal democracy. But I am saying, and I do believe that our candidates are better than the other candidates. I believe our plans and proposals are better. I believe that we are fielding candidates that really and truly have a passion for developing their community. We have, as Dominic said earlier, we don't have the baggage and the burden of 3.5 years at the helm at City Hall. We don't have that. We were never given that opportunity. We are not asking for that opportunity. So if you were at the helm of leadership, that's one of the things that come with it. You now have a record, and you have to defend your record. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Now, you said that you at the national level you see no big issue working with a government, within a government,
No, I
with
see
the
no
party.
I see no problem.
All right. You may not see a problem. The public out there might very well see this as a referendum, not only on your government, but on you, the party, and the role it played. How do you answer a question like that?
A referendum in what sense? That
A
these
refer-
elections
no, this is
are a
no.
referendum? Or-
Well, you know, it's always said local government, like midterms, are really a referendum on Trump, that type of thing. So it's people saying, well, you know what? We voted for the APNU AFC in 2015 because of the following reasons. We don't think they've lived up to that record expectation. I'm putting that hypothetically, and to that extent, people say, you know, well, I'm not going to go back there.
And you're saying that the results of this election might be seen in that context. I don't think so. To
But
be
you've
honest
seen
with you.
letters in the media that
Oh,
suggest
yes.
that, yes.
But
I'm not representing a personal position here. I'm putting this out, throwing this as a discussion issue.
I don't see that at all. And at least from our point of view, we are putting candidates in their constituencies to tell the people what they plan to do for them. If that message isn't resonating, then there's nothing we can do about that. If that message isn't the right message, or if we're not getting it out enough, or if our candidates are not working hard enough on the ground, there's nothing that we can do. We are supporting our candidates. We go walking together. We walk with them in their communities, and we have seen a lot of our candidates at work in their own communities, and it has the response that they get has very little to do with any issues relating to national governance, except where there is confusion between what the municipality or the NDC is responsible for and what the national government is responsible for. But people generally in the community level, they're interested in very local issues. If you walk through the communities, you will find that they're not interested in foreign policy and national economics or anything like that. They're interested in the street lights and in the drains, in the roads, in crime, in those sort of issues.
So you don't think national issues play any role any significant role in these local government elections?
I don't think so. It hasn't been I haven't perceived that is creeping into this. No.
How many candidates do you have in these elections?
We have over 600 candidates in total, but that includes our constituency candidates and our PR candidates. We have 161 constituency candidates and over 600 candidates in total.
What would you say is that threshold that you will say we did well, and what's the threshold that you would say we did very well?
I think if we took the whole city council, I would say we did very well. But as we were discussing earlier, progress is incremental. It doesn't happen in a flash. One of the challenges faced at City Hall in the last 2.5 years was that there was a majority. And once you have a majority, then that person or that party tends to control the direction of almost everything. What we have done and what we have tried to be in the AFC is, as they say, the balance of power. If there is no clear majority...
That's AFC at the local government?
At the national level. If we can...
Well, you can't talk about balance of power when you have collective responsibility.
Before we were the balance of power. So,
okay, yes.
So at the local level, if we could have no clear majority and two different groups must agree, then that's progress. Because then you now must have discussion. You must have two separate groups that would agree on a particular position for it to move forward. Mm-hmm. And that's progress. Because that does not happen right now. The single position of one particular group just moves forward.
You said you have how many candidates?
Over 600 in total.
What percentage would you regard as successful?
I think we are trying to avoid a numbers game because it has to do with balance of power, as Michael quite rightly pointed out. Because most of our councils have a majority, in most cases to an overwhelming majority, who can literally do what they like at that level, and it makes the system dysfunctional. So as many councils as possible where we can remove that overwhelming majority and create that balance where there is more dialogue and there is better decision making and there's no one party that can take anything for granted. That is how we measure our success.
But that's exactly what I'm getting at. Now, this is computer age. Elections are all strategies where you put numbers into a computer and you would have seen, okay, what does it mean in constituency 1 in Georgetown constituency? So that's what I'm trying to get from you. If you don't want to answer what you consider success, what would you consider failure?
Our aim, what we would like to do, is to ensure that, as we've said, there's no overwhelming majority. Once there's the overwhelming majority, the system is dysfunctional. Is the system dysfunctional or you failed? The system is dysfunctional.
Yeah, we would have failed. If we go back to what we are now,
yes,
we would have failed. We accept that. We're not in this in this election here to hide behind any hedge or anything like that. We are contesting an election, and if we don't do well in the election, then we have not done well. You know, we put ourselves on the line, and you can judge whether we've been successful or not.
I'll ask you one further question, and then leave you to throw your spiel out there. No, again, it's the same I did with the PPP.
Okay.
And that's the approach I do want to take. Campaign financing has been a serious governance and ethical issue in this country, and continues to be so. All the political parties seem to want to run away from it. What's the AFC's position on campaign financing at the local government level?
We have no position that is notably different from our general position on campaign financing. We are a political party. We are contesting national elections, and we contest local government elections. We can't run away from the fact that at the national level and at the most senior level, we are able to raise the most funds. And therefore we support our candidates, or at least we support the local government elections financially. A lot of our candidates, or the regions in which the candidates are operating, they are able to have fundraisers, they are able to be self-sustaining, and all we have to do is fund certain activities, some travel, etc. It's not as expensive as the national election, so I'm not sure what position you're looking to elicit, and what the problem is perhaps that you seem to want to correct when it comes to campaign funding, whether national
I do
local.
believe that there's an issue of campaign financing because of what some of the consequences. Business people don't just pay money to a political party because they love Dominic Gaskin. They pay because they want to get something back. But let's move on. What message, and this is the point where you're allowed to say what you want about your own party now, and its message. What's the message that the National Party is sending to the constituencies and its constituency candidates as to what it should be promoting? Or is it saying, look, these are domestic issues, you deal with them?
No, there are national principles that we are promoting, but we have said that it's mostly about local issues. But we are saying, as a national party, we are promoting good governance, we are promoting accountability, transparency, etc. We are promoting economic progress, we are promoting safer and better communities, we are promoting local democracy. But it is mostly at the local level where the candidates have to promote the issues that are specific to the communities that they are seeking to represent.
How do you define and promote the issues that you raised within your constituencies?
I've always said that I never like the term somebody in power. So my message to the candidates and what we've been discussing so far is that to understand that you're not assuming a position of power. You're being placed in a position of responsibility. So it is important to approach it from that perspective, so you understand that you need to consult with the persons. You need to consult with the citizens in the community. You need to be transparent. You need to be accountable. You need to ensure that the decisions...
All that is required at the national level as well.
Well,
check Article 13 of 149C.
Well, that's what you said, what the party is sending to them, and that's what we've said all along, that we are not in power. We are stewards of resources of the country. We're stewards of the resources of the community, or the NDC, or the municipality. If you approach it from that perspective, and you have a passion for developing a community, then I believe you'll be successful.
So in your particular case, and then I'm going to ask Alvin, what are the programs you're advocating. You go to someone's house and say, look, we want your support. I'm from the AFC, and we're here to canvass your support. What are the 3, 4, 5, 6 things you say to people? This is why we think you ought to give us your support.
Well, sadly, we're still at the stage of asking for the basics. We're still asking for drains to be cleared, for street lights, for community policing groups. We're still asking for some of those things. As Martin said earlier, we believe that local government elections is more than that. We should have those things as a matter of fact. Get those systems in place so we could go on to doing more social development things and build the community socially as well as physically.
The whole thing about being successful with local democracy is giving a listening ear to the people on the ground, hearing what are their issues, and not just you going to impose here, this is what I want to do. So what I do in our country, we have kind of like town hall kind of meetings where we listen to the people. All right, for example, if there's something that needs to be done, for example, parking meter, we said, okay, this is a vision. I share my vision and then I listen, okay, and get the response, and you'd be surprised. Some things I heard out there from my community. For example, one resident, Mr. Dexter Austin, he made a brilliant suggestion about the fire station at the Stabrook area there. Very congested when there's emergency, the fire engine have to come out there. He said, look, where the old Ministry of Labour building been? That's in my constituency there on Homestretch Avenue. We could put the fire station there. The fire engines then can park opposite on our park because there's a lot of bush there. We need to take down that bush and we can utilize the space. So, and that's coming from the resident. That didn't come from me. So it's all about listening and hearing, and you hear brilliant ideas on how to tackle the mosquitoes, how to clear the drainage, and so on. I share my vision with them. Okay, I would like to see more cohesion in the community. Okay, more community involvement. It shouldn't be just me. It will be a teamwork between myself and the members of the community working together to make the Georgetown municipality a success. It's not a dictatorship, but community involvement. Everything decision has to be made, we should consult the people. That's what this local democracy is all about.
Thank you, Mr. Martin Gaul, candidate for Constituency 9 in City of Georgetown. Mr. Michael Leonard, Region 4, Chairman of the Alliance for Change, and Minister Dominic Gaskin, Minister of Business in the Government of Guyana, for appearing on Plain Talk this evening and to discuss the local government elections and, of course, some national issues. Like I did again last week, I want to wish you all success come November the 12th.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
Thank you.
Operator and viewers, thank you and good night.